go.
There's not even a countdown. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that you're probably going to see all of us together like this. And what we're doing here is this is actually a behind the scenes enterprise. So only the most prestigious of the prestigious will actually get to watch this. This is a highly classified document, and it is going to be our brainstorm session for our actual first podcast, which will be the real meat and potatoes. So today we are going to be discussing kind of wow, there's kind of a lot to say because we kind of have to say what the heck are we, right? So we want to put forward our best face outwardly, right? To kind of show off a little, I guess, show off our traditions and our culture and kind of just try to be a lighthouse here a little bit, right? Shining out and for the boats to see. And so how do we do that, right? How do we be a good lighthouse in that analogy? Um, and and why is it needed, right? Why is that the case? And I think probably one of you guys can pick up from there, and I think that's a good intro. Sell the idea of why do we need culture? Why do we need a lighthouse? Why can't I just go to my local library and find culture there? Uh, why are we doing it across space and time like this? Um, so yeah, I guess maybe I should say something like, uh, "My name is Russ. We have Lewis with us, and we have Shane, and we have
Hello.
Gregory." So if everybody wants to say hi for a minute or take it from there, um, that's the best I can do as our current line leader.
All right, I can take it from here. So my name is Lewis, and I am here because I met these wonderful individuals through Russ, and together we kind of have a vision and a plan, and we hope to one be a source of inspiration, of hope, of guidance for those who are lost in this messed up, screwy world. We have together lots of life experience, lots of ideas. We've been around the block a few times, so we know how things are, and we can give better advice than the boomers who are generally quite out of touch. Having said that, we also love to discuss philosophy and esoteric ideas and science and other more intellectual subjects that you don't hear too often. So you will likely hear us talk about the ship of Theseus, or Zeno's paradox, or Kantian ethics, or basically anything else. So together we will hopefully create a wonderful place where people can come, where they can feel welcome, and they can join in these discussions as we try and build a new world together.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
great, Lewis. And I'll put a little icing on that as well, because there's so many podcasts out there these days that are discussing some of those topics you just mentioned. But it's always this like intro level, this is the ship of Theseus, and then they explain it, like an undergrad class. We're really trying to get the
Mhm.
next step. We're really trying to be that step two, which is to say, you already watched all those YouTube videos, right? So
Mhm.
now I find that there's this air of, especially in the online spaces, especially in the network state, which we'll talk about, right? Another YouTube video everybody's probably watched, the fact that we're all moving away from institutions and online, right? And building culture in this decentralized way. So we're not trying to
Mhm.
preach or explain a lot of these. We're not going to spend too much time defining the Socratic method or Plato's cave. We're going to reference it, right? And we're going to assume that our viewers are well informed because we're kind of aiming at that, right? We're kind of aiming at that second step and the third, not the first. So I'll add that to what you said there. Lewis, what about Gregory Shane? You got anything for us?
I'll go next if you want. Um, Let me think. So yeah, we live in a world of economic deterioration and social disintegration, and I see this project as a countermeasure to that. Um, at the very least, even for people who don't necessarily join us, it can just be an example of what you can do with the tools that are just sitting around waiting to be used to create your own new social networks like we've done here. And yeah, Russell's been kind of the catalyst in bringing us all together. So I'm very grateful for that, and it's been great to be part of it. But yeah, for lots of other, particularly younger people out there, uh, I think a lot of them are really struggling and lost, and hopefully we can give them a few alternate perspectives on strategies and collaborations that you can find to counteract all of that.
I like that. Yeah. To add to that, I'll say, the ethos based accreditation. What's the version of that word I want to say? Accredited, right? Like a university is accredited, right? What's that word I'm looking for and failing on? Uh, um, Authority, right? Like what is it that makes a university matter, right? What is it that makes these institutions matter, and what makes that go away? And I think what we're seeing more and more with every year that passes, and it's been happening for about 15 years, is that the power of those institutions have lost their credibility, right? And so where do we go to,
Mhm.
right? It started with this move towards the intellectual dark web, and I think that was one of the first big pushes. You have like your Sam Harris, your Jordan Peterson, your whoever else was part of that crew, Weinstein, and
Mhm.
uh, who am I forgetting? Pluto, what's his name? Pluto Science guy. Can't remember right now. Anyway, that kind of crew started that, and I think what happened is people saw the ethos, the virtue, right, in those individuals, and so when they spoke, people said, I trust them, right? I trust them because of their knowledge pool, the way that they're able to conduct themselves, the breadth of their knowledge sounds like more than I've ever heard out of a university giving me a piece of paper for $40,000, right? Depending on, I suppose, what country you're in, but in the US, it's terrible, right? So I think that people now can get a better education, right, from these spaces, right? And what is that credibility, right? When it comes to now people are hiring, they don't care, right? They really, I owned a business, right? But I try not to use personal anecdotes. The point is, everything's moving away from the institutions. And so what we need to find now are people that we can trust, people that have that virtue, right? And we have to find a way to much like Nietzsche said, right? Very I get real fast we'll say that there's going to be all these pretenders that rise up, right? And they're going to walk the walk, right? But they're not going to have the soul of it, right? They're going to look good, right? They're charlatans, right? The new versions of snake oil. They're selling, there's fitness people selling fitness stuff, even though why? Because the universities have broken down, we now have to find a new way to filter. And what's that word I like? That I say young people that have discernibility, the ability I'm not sure if that's the word I usually use, but discernment, maybe
Mm,
that's it.
mm.
Those that have that, it's going to be a
No,
force multiplier, right? Go ahead.
Greg, did you introduce yourself yet?
No,
I was trying to pass it to him with the virtue thing, right? You saw me. I was setting you up, Gregory.
I was slowly waiting for him. That's why I was patient.
I was doing it. Yeah, I know. I just had to mention that. But go ahead. You're in.
Well, morning, evening, or afternoon, whomever's watching. I'm Gregory, and the youngest of these four great gentlemen, if not noble warriors. And speaking of youngest, it involves childlike play, and the childlike play of the propelling wheel forward of this yes sayer of life, actively, lovingly, if not creatively, in a sense. which involves of how, if the audience can realize this, how dynamic every individual among this call, including the active ones among this call or meeting or podcast, whatever. And from that dynamic force, we constituted a molding of personality from the will force and power that were colliding and produced our personal constitution that we, with both disagreements and high agreements, including higher disagreements, produce that piece of document to not solely represent, but as an expression of our existence. Because represent our power's an expression of ourselves. Hell, existing is a representation of our power to create influence. And to create influence, it solely depends on existence. And from that existence, there's this act of development on every singular movement and moment onwards.
I
It
like
involves,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add, right, that existence. That's one of those some of those power words, sigil words, because a lot of people think of existence as passive, right? They think of it as, oh, existing is a passive, right? That's an effect. That's not an affect, right? It's an effect. It's something that is occurring that everyone's just existing, right? But there's a
Mhm.
qualitative element to it, right? And that's what matters, right? How are you existing? How big is
Mhm.
it, right? So yeah, I like that a lot.
Could I add
Mhm.
maybe I think the thing that ties us together the most is that we're unusually self-motivated in a world where I think a lot of people, particularly through schooling, have been trained to be pacified, to just sit and wait for instructions. And
Mhm.
that is something I think anyone can reacquire later in life,
Mhm.
particularly if you're like just leaving school and coming into the world. That's kind of like your best opportunity to reclaim the ability to just do shit, to not wait for somebody to tell you what to do. And maybe it would be useful to like go around between all of us and just quickly summarize the thing that you are driving in your own life that makes you stand out.
Mhm.
Does Russ want to
Yeah.
start?
Well, I was going to let you start since it's your idea. Why don't you
Okay.
start?
Well, I mean, I retired at 40. I'm an experimental farmer in Australia. I do a lot of speculative fiction writing as well. Uh, and yeah, with the experimental farming, I do a podcast and a Substack, but I'm also doing social structure experimentation, particularly leveraging technology. I think that's a huge opportunity that rather than just logging into Facebook and opening your eyeballs and accepting whatever slop the algorithm decides you deserve that day, we should be building our own networks, our own societies. We have all of the tools right at our fingertips, and we just need that spark of motivation. And add on top of that a bit of mutual encouragement, like we find here in this group, and it's the possibilities are just mind-boggling at this stage in history. So yeah, get on it,
Mhm.
people.
It's honestly, I think it comes back around to that authority argument, but it's people not feeling like they have the authority themselves, right? Like that's why I say we're step 2, 3, right? If we mention Nietzsche, go read him, right? We're beyond the point now where we need to talk about that. The people that we're aiming at, right? The people that see this lighthouse and say, wow, this is something, they already know that stuff, right? And every one of these podcasts brings up these things and then starts, oh, hey, if you guys haven't heard, let's talk about that. Then you hear that for 10 minutes, right? No, I'm talking about step 2 and 3. I'm already there, right? And you can be, right? It's really this self-authority, right? That this stepping out, right? And it's really stepping out and away from those institutions because it's the public schooling and things like that that is like instilling, ingraining, entrenching this idea of what do I want to be what do you want to be when you grow up rather than who do you want to be when you grow up, right? And so you're sitting there and you're waiting for instructions, you're waiting for a test, but the test doesn't teach you anything other than how to take a test well, right? Honestly, the most you can learn when taking a test is cheating, right? Like I think that's probably the most dynamic, like you have to get around
Mhm.
forces, that are trying to stop you, right? And you realize, that's you stepping outside of the mold and saying, I could do this a lot easier. I just got to figure out how to finagle this thing, right? You do that, and that's some real world stuff, right? I'll hire the cheater.
And there's a sensitive term to that. What you're saying, Russ, responsibility, because
Yeah.
someone's isn't responsible of their necessities they represent of life, of either powers, laws, or the freedom of will, et cetera, nor the chances they, and I say chance in the sense of fate and development and or changing of life, which is independent and beyond control, they encounter because they conquer them. That chance conquers them unwillingly, so they become unsubjugated or don't have a free will. They're unfree will.
Mhm. Yes, and it really, I think it takes this external force to like knock you off the path, which is why there's so many people that uh have gone through, and this might set Lewis up, uh have gone through tragedy or pain or suffering. And that's the thing that kind of like you're just I don't. It's been a while, right? But and I don't really want to insult anyone. But I'll say the people that are just kind of heads in the clouds, everything's happy. I believe everything I hear on the TV, right? Those people, you're on that track, and something happens, right? And it knocks you off of that track, and it shakes and rattles your world, right? You're like, crap, right? It's bad and it's not good, right? And then you gotta like you're left with all these pieces, and you're like, what do I do with this? How do I make sense of this, right? And I think when that happens, and we all have our trial and travail. When that happens, that's when you. I don't know what references I can use here. You become Super Saiyan, right? You get weak, you almost die, but then you come back stronger. I think there's a lot. That's a motif throughout a lot of fiction. So for all the
Yeah,
generations, Lewis, what do you
we're,
think?
Yeah, so I mean, we've definitely suffered my fair share of trials and tribulations, and I have come out stronger for it for sure. I now understand that life is extremely precious, and basically don't waste it. If you can breathe, if you can think, then you can change things. And for me personally, in December, I took a one-way ticket from my hometown up north and then walked and hiked and hitchhiked back home uh, to see as much of nature and learn as much as possible. And that was just one adventure I've taken over the past few years. And essentially, you are never too old to continue learning, to continue growing, to continue maturing. And one of the things you'll get here is people who have gone on that, gone through a lot of that. We are at different stages individually in our journeys, and we're also very supportive of those who earnestly are willing to improve themselves and their circumstances, because right now, there are a lot of lost, unfortunate souls created by a system that, you know, essentially is made to turn you into a bureaucrat and not a thinking, working, actual instantiated human with agency. So yes, when we're doing this stuff, we're hoping that whoever's listening, wherever you are, you can get some of that energy and take it and bring it into your life and do something with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I really I want to make sure we hit that precisely, right? And so, I've written things down like I'm aiming at the 16-year-old version of myself, right? That was very confused, that kind of recognized I know more than my teachers, right? Like these guys, what are they doing, right? Like, why my third grade teacher told me that nobody from World War I was alive anymore, and I said something like, "Well, I said, aren't there people that are over 100 years old?" And she said, This is in the 90s. And she said, she just didn't respond. She wouldn't like admit that I was right, right? Because I was a third grader, and she just kind of like went on with the class. And I'm like, wait, what? So that was kind of been thinking third grade was the first time I realized something was up, something was going on. So I don't know what it is. I like to call it the right stuff, right? It's these people. If they're like me at 16, they're like, what is up with this? Nobody knows crap, right? I don't want to go to college. I went to the Marine Corps. Then I went to college, right? Because I was trying to figure it out. And I just couldn't find it anywhere, right? And you got to go deeper. You got to go deeper. And you have to kind of find these models, these virtue ethical models, right? That you can trust their heart, right? Their soul, their spirit, thumos, their it's people, right? It's those people that you see and you go, hey, man, that person knows something. And I want to know more about that, right? And I think that's kind of the aim. I talk about it a lot, right? I think, everybody wants to create a system that's perfect, right? That on paper, they can just write it down and it all solves itself. But I think that everything's more dynamic than that. And when you say, you know what, Shane and Lewis know way more about the technology than I do. So I'll just let them make those decisions, right? Like I don't need to know. I don't need to like walk through all this. Just tell me what to do, right? And I think you'll find that trust and even that like role, you kind of get empowered by a little bit. Like your team says, "Hey, Russ, I think you're the best judge among us, right? If some criminal action were to occur and you needed, like we're going to let you handle that, right? It's like I could assume that and be proud of it, right? So yeah, what do you guys think? Gregory, Shane, want to jump in?
I'll let
Shane,
Greg.
you first while I'm still formulating.
uh, well, can I maybe throw it back to you? It's an opportunity just to restate like who each of us are and the things that
Mhm.
we're driving along. I did mine, and then we got
I
sidetracked.
know
So
that
I'll
happened.
pull you
I
back.
know that.
I'll pull you back.
And
I know that.
I'll get Russ and Lewis to briefly say like what are your big passions and things that like what put you on Russell's radar when he was bringing us all together? Because I think that's what he was sensing when he was trying to recruit
Mhm.
people into this group.
It's a oh man, I know I'm reminiscing the grand times because in a previous community, Russ and I'm not naming the community, but in the previous community
Okay.
that Russ and I, including you two, were inside, January of last year, so it's 1 year now. Um,
Mhm.
I saw Russ inside of a all meeting call, and once he began describing the authors and philosophers or people that he's passionate of reading, I heard Soren Kierkegaard or Kierkegaard, and I immediately messaged him after saying, "Why not you and I set a time to call? We're both
Mhm.
passionate of this individual, and which blossomed to now this concrete form of this community." And when he was discussing this is not the first time I've heard this, but when he was continuing discussing of the 16-year-old me, what would 16-year-old me want out of this if other 16-year-olds were inside of this community? My initial thought was, after being exposed and vulnerable to literature at age 15 and slowly developing the roots and tree branches of myself at age 16 and 17, because 17 is the climax of my life, but at 16 years old, still being naive, inept, blind, and mindless at times, I would say to myself at 16 years old, thank you for entering that void and distilling that venom and toxic energy to become an ever flowing tonic of life, or to use a Catholic analogy of Saint Januarius' miracle. If you're unfamiliar with Saint Januarius' miracle, he transformed his blood to water, symbolic for an ever flowing life, if not overflowing, similar to the river. And now I'm thinking of a Heraclitus quote because of that. No man steps in the same river twice. And I apply that St. January's miracle to my life. Of there would be monumental and climax moments where my blood would alter to water, and this ever flowing water is not the same water trail or bank that I stepped before.
That reminds me of adaptation, Shane.
Yes, and that's where I throw my fastball to you, Shane, of your adaptation.
We still haven't answered. We still haven't done what Shane wants us to do, though.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
You're operating under your own steam.
Oh,
Catch the world real quick and basically say, what got me in here. I believe it was a while ago, but one of our mutual friends said he texts me and says, "Hey, this guy is creating a group of people who he thinks, have the right stuff, and you might have what he's looking for." And when I spoke with Russ, we were able to bond because we both, and all of us, we have kind of a nobility of spirit, a drive, a desire for arete, and by sharing that, as well as an intense desire to search for the truth, I could see, oh yeah, these are my people for sure. So with that, I'm gonna throw the ball back to Shane.
Yeah, it's been an interesting winnowing process watching this group come together because it's well, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm really fascinated by in general is the how humans come together to form groups and networks and relationships, and particularly how we can do that very differently today in the age of technology. Like 16-year-old me never would have had a hope in hell of finding people like you on the other side of the planet. It just wouldn't have been possible. And it's not easy. It's a lot of work. You've got to kiss a lot of toads for the fairy tale analogy. But I don't know. That's what I'm
Some of them,
hoping. That's what I'm hoping with sharing what we're doing in this group, that we can act as an example to other people to either get involved with what we're doing, because Ross has some ideas on that front, or just saying, why can't I just do this myself from scratch? And you can always tap us on the shoulder for advice if things aren't working perfectly at the first try, because it usually takes a couple of tries to get things harmonious. Like it took us a year to reach this point.
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, especially with the Constitution. Gregory mentioned that a little bit. We don't have time today to go into that. That could be a whole nother, probably long form cast. We could go into why we did that and everything, every option that we chose. But I would say it took us almost 6 months, probably maybe a little less, that we worked on that project. And like I think we should talk about that a whole nother cast. But the point that matters is you burn through the people that aren't going to fit, right? Yeah, you're going to start with a larger number, and that number is going to become smaller, right? And that's just kind of the nature of it, and it goes back to what I was saying. There's a lot of people that talk the talk. Not only are they learning from people that talk the talk, that's what happens. They learn that way, and then they show up that way, right? And they're really addicted to that like initial hype, which is why, you join. I bet everybody here, you've joined all these projects, and what happens? They fizzle out, fizzle out, fizzle out, right? So that's why we're step 2 and 3, right? We're not step 1, right? And because there's a million step 1s, and then everybody doesn't know how to walk the walk because they're talking the talk, right? They're playing at it. They're playing at creating a thing, right? It's like, no, we're here. It's here. We've created it, right? Now what are we going to do, right? And so I think from the beginning, yeah, it is. I would say if I had one person with me, right, when I started this, then that's a victory, right? Because people are very important to me, right? I think they have infinite moral value, and so 4 is a legendary move. if that gets bigger, right, with it's plus one more infinite. That's a joke, by the way, but it's that much more that we're able to reach, and also what Shane said is important, right? We're not just we're not just trying to. I do have some ideas that I won't be able to get into here, but some ideas for really proliferating this culture specifically, depending on how that works out. But at the same time, we're just kind of throwing our spirit fire into the void, and providing an example, and hoping kind of you guys can do this with your local communities, right? You don't have to like come to us, right? Like maybe you guys have your own spark, your own fire, and you can maybe bounce some ideas off of us. We're happy to help in that way. And then there's also ways that you can get involved more directly with our community, and we're setting that up as we speak. Basically, as soon as this ends, I'm gonna do some more with it. But reach out, right? And then we're human. We're human. We're not. We answer calls. We answer messages. We're and we want to remain in that space. So I'm talking too long. Somebody else pick it up.
Oh, just quickly, have you got the timer
Yeah.
going? Just so we don't get cut off. I think we've got about another 10 minutes.
We got 9 minutes.
Yeah.
9 minutes. Let's go real
9
quick.
minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Someone tell me when we have about 3 minutes left, because I want to bring something up around that time.
Okay.
Okay, you sure? It's going to be. It'll cut us off right there. So make sure you got it. Okay, 3 minutes. I'll let you know. Who
4 minutes.
4. Okay, we got that. All right, Lewis. I have my outro. I'll just throw that out. Don't worry about it.
Well, how about quickly, what can people expect from the long form podcast? Because I think we're hoping to record these fairly regularly and put them out to the world. So if we put this one up as a kind of preliminary thing to get things going, why would they subscribe and look forward to the next episode?
hmm that's relevant to what I said earlier of how dynamic every individual is, because the majority of the time we're not concerned that we're agreeing with one another. Where's the disagreement? Where's that contrarian part of every single individual that would constitute to the onward moment of not solely us individually on a selfish level, but on a selfless level of clarifying where the black spots or black and blind spots of every person. That's what they would anticipate, and how I define it with this podcast, including of the council too. What do you constitute and sacrifice to the council?
Mm. I mean,
And we can challenge each other, but we're doing it in a respectful way, because we all like each other. We all have high respect for each other. So instead of saying, you're wrong, you're totally wrong, what the hell is stupid, dumb. No, we're like, okay, I'd like to challenge you on this assumption, and then go from there. That's how we do it.
I didn't have to like you. What do you mean?
I'm thinking of the term parasocial relationship, which is often framed in a very negative light. Like you follow a celebrity or an influencer, and it kind of feels like you have a friend, but it really does nothing but just filling up your time and like dispelling negative emotions. I see this as an experiment in practical parasocial relationships. There's a good chance I'm never going to meet any of you in person. I'm the other side of the planet, and I never want to get on a plane again in my life. But I talk to you one-on-one. We just chat on the phone, all of you, about every week. And that's been really transformative to me. I didn't have that recently. I don't have that in my local community. And that feels great. But I think we all want to take it to the next level and actually make it something of like, on top of that tangible benefit in all of our lives. And if we can share that with the rest of the world and say, you can do this too, like there's your phone. There's 8 billion people. Get to it. I think it's nice to kind of open that door to people's imagination. And like you can follow us along and we can be your parasocial friends. But I don't know. I think the boundary between that and actual friend is diffuse. It's a spectrum. So like I think we're going to be relatively accessible for people in the comments or, joining the group to various levels of involvement and getting
Mhm.
advice and inspiration about creating similar groups for yourself. Like that's kind of the way I see it going. That we're trying to create a new digital culture that links real people together with real relationships.
A way, right? A path, a way, right? I
Mm.
think
Hmm.
isn't that what you just shared something, right, about Jesus of Nazareth? His first disciples were called what? The way, right? Or the path,
The
something
way.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the way, right? And so it's like that. Walk like I do, right? Walk with me, right? And it's a little bit of that ethos. It's a little bit of that, like, you have to take, here's faith, right? That's faith. This is real faith. Is seems like there's something going on here. Let me take that step, right? Why? And you might say, why? Where's the authority? Because that's what I always bring up. Where's the authority? The authority is that we're doing it now.
Mm.
Step with us, right?
Mm.
That's the difference. Go listen to anybody else talking about this stuff. They're on step one, right? We did it, right? We did it for a year. Step two, step three. Let's do it. Lewis, are you ready? You got 4 minutes.
All right, so we are going to have a lot of fun discussing and talking and fixing the world's problems by jabbering about them, but we also love anthropology, history, science, and philosophy. And generally, when we end our meetings, we end it by saying to each other, amor fati. And Greg, our resident Nietzschean expert, can kind of fill y'all in on what that means.
Amor fati, simply with a one perspective on this part, which is rare for me. I have multiple perspectives, but for amor fati, it translates to love of one's fate. Continue, Lewis.
Yes, love
Okay.
of one's faith. So basically, regardless of what brought you here today, regardless of how you are, what you think, what trials or tribulations you may have been through, you can say amor fati because it has made you the person that you are today. And tomorrow, it's the start of the rest of your life. So get going.
I like to say when preparation collides with opportunity, right? And when people ask me, why are you alive? Right, right, because that's a big question for us philosophers. Why do we choose to live another day, right? What is it? It's that opportunity, right? It's the preparation and the fact that I exist inside of another moment, and a podcast can come on, and I might see something, the right stuff in the right people, and it might just like be enough to knock me off that track that we were talking about, right? Kind of an outside force that comes in with enough pressure and pain, hopefully, that it moves you in a way. Like, what is it that these guys? What is this spark? Why does it seem like they have a million more things to say, but we're only allowed to talk for 2 more minutes? Because I'd love to get into so many more things, so many things that we weren't able to touch. We got this minute and 50 seconds left, and boy, I realize only in this cast, only in this right now, how we could talk. I haven't even touched on what Shane said. I haven't even brought up like my enterprise of truth seeking and my philosophy that I'm writing, right? And I haven't even touched that. And that would, I could blabber about that for days. So that's wild. What do you guys think? We got a minute and a half.
Could I maybe quickly float an idea for a future Longcast episode?
Yes.
I want to hear what each of you was like at 16, and like to like for Gregory, it's not so much of an active imagination. I've got to delve a bit further back, but I would love to revisit that for everyone and kind of paint a picture of like how that influenced where the rest of your life went and what lessons like
I
you've
love
learned
that.
looking back.
Let's do
I
that
agree to
next,
the idea.
right? And if anybody else is here and has other ideas for us, comment away. We'll answer everything. And I think I like rock and roll with that. But if anybody else has any hooks or ideas, If you don't have any, we'll come up with them. But if you do have a good one, hey, we might roll with it. Whatever sounds good. Be dynamic, right? Be more. That's what we try to do, right? Like take that extra step and find people that will take it with you, because
Hmm.
there's so many people out there that will say that they will, right? But they'll keep not showing up. And I think that could be a cast in and of itself. It's that action. It's step 2 and step 3. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is the end of our first broadcast.
Amor fati.
Amor fati.
Amor fati.
Well, it didn't end, did it?
I can chop this bit off. Do you want to head to another place to chat?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's jump in WhatsApp call
Yep.
or whatever.
Okay. Alrighty.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye-bye.